This is IGN. Requiem for a Scream. This is your IGN review of Resident Evil Requiem by Tristan Ogilvy. Within the hallways of the sinister sanatorium where Resident Evil Requiem's opening hours take place lies some of the most frightening encounters I've experienced in the series to date. With my headphones on and the lights off, the ninth mainline adventure in Capcom's long-running survival horror saga forced me to endure moments so palpably tense and prolonged, I discovered muscles to clench that I didn't previously know I had. Yet, hours later, I was no longer holding my breath, but holding my fist in the air instead, as I gleefully mowed down masses of undead meat sacks like it was D-Day in World War Z. In an effort to please both survival horror stalwarts and action horror advocates, Resident Evil Requiem runs the gore-soaked gamut from anxiety-inducing chills to trigger-happy thrills. The result is yet another supremely hair-raising horror story, despite the fact its most potent scares have all been delivered by the time it arrives at its more gloriously gung-ho second half. Not unlike 2023's Alan Wake 2, Resident Evil Requiem initially focuses on a young FBI agent, in this case, series newcomer Grace Ashcroft, played by Angela Santalbano, a fresh-faced analyst who's sent to investigate a series of mysterious deaths among the survivors of Raccoon City, several decades after the 1998 outbreak. Grace's flashlight-lit forensic search through the grimy insides of a shuttered hotel is ultimately short-lived, however, as she's soon ensnared by Victor Gideon, played by Anthony Byrne. Requiem's main antagonist, whose menacing air, disgustingly disfigured face, and greasy goggles make him seem like some sort of steampunk Emperor Palpatine. Victor traps Grace in the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Center, a Spencer Mansion-style labyrinth of locked doors crawling with all manner of flesh-eating freaks. But thankfully, help is on the way in the form of uber-stylish series veteran Leon S. Kennedy, played by Nick Apostolidis. Requiem allows us to alternate control between Grace and Leon at specific story junctions over the course of its roughly 10-hour campaign, but it's the former whose predominantly stealth-based sections are undoubtedly the most fear-inducing. Underpowered and under constant threat from twisted stalker ghouls that are liable to descend from the rafters at any moment, Grace's efforts to escape the terrors of Victor's hospital is a wonderfully stressful slab of unrelenting survival horror. There's precious little ammo to find, a miserly number of inventory slots to manage, and Grace moves at such a slow speed that it makes timing your careful crouch walk to avoid a prowling pack of zombies an exercise in pinpoint path-making, especially if you don't have a rare breakable bottle to toss in order to create a distraction. All the while, you have to puzzle through a stimulating series of body part-based riddles in elaborately locked doors, never really knowing when you're going to turn a corner and come face to flabby face with a grotesquely girthy golem that's urgently squeezing its way down the hallway towards you. For the latter, simply put, there is no off position on Leon's ass-kicking switch. His gunplay is John Wick slick and bloodier than ever before, and in addition to his surging slaughter of zombie hordes, it's also within Leon's levels that the bulk of Requiem's appropriately epic boss encounters take place. There are plenty of colossal clashes to be found here, from brand new behemoths to brilliantly reimagined threats from previous Resident Evil stories, and there isn't a single Del Lago-sized dud among them. I particularly loved how the hulking, nasty-faced inside of a cramped chapel midway through the story subverted my expectations of how a Resident Evil boss fight should play out. Sure, being tasked with blasting the glowing weak points that cover a marauding monster's torso is nothing new. That is, until you realize that while piercing each swollen blister does inflict damage to the beast, it also spews streams of infection onto the zombie underlings around him, instantly mutating them into brawnier forms of backup for you to contend with. Leon may be armed to the teeth, but that doesn't mean Requiem doesn't still find creative ways to ramp up the challenge. Like the result of an experiment conducted in an underground Umbrella Corporation lab, Resident Evil Requiem successfully splices two separate strains of survival horror together into one highly infectious new mutation. It signals the return of a series legend and the arrival of a new likable lead, amps up the gore to a new stomach-turning standard, and unleashes a scarier breed of zombie alongside some truly beastly boss fights. The lack of any meaningful side content like the Mercenaries mode is a touch disappointing, and I do wonder if a slightly more consistent balance could have been struck with the ebb and flow, from jaw-clenching moments of tension to all-out assault, rather than front-loading the story with frights before giving way to a more bullet-riddled back half. Even so, from my first trembling steps into its shadows all the way to the tremendous Titan-sized takedown at its climax, Resident Evil Requiem kept me completely absorbed and consistently entertained, whether it was all hair-raising or all guns blazing. Resident Evil Requiem's IGN score? 9 out of 10. Thanks for listening to IGN. My name is Tony Jackson, and if you want more news on your favorite games and entertainment topics, make sure to visit us at IGN.com. You can also download our free app on your phone or console and subscribe to our weekly podcasts through the podcast service of your choice.